All right, this is the Real Man podcast, our first episode. We are kicking off yet another podcast in the airways with a new topic. And for the next while, my colleague Jacques and I are going to try and convince you why you're in the right place, why you're listening to this. But essentially the background is the whole idea around Real Man and the name Real Man, the topic started as camps for young men, essentially older schoolboys and students. And we started promoting and marketing the whole idea around Real Man camps and realized that you need a bit more credibility and you need some time on the airwaves to be able to convince parents to send their sons to a camp, especially to two guys that I know. So we felt it would be a good idea to create a podcast channel within a wider Real Man ecosystem that deals with topics around what it means to be a real man. And that's probably the main question that we want to answer going forward is what is a real man? And I'm going to ask Jacques later what he thinks a real man is. I'm going to try and share my view. And going forward, we want to get guests on this podcast who are going to answer that question for us. And the important thing is that there's no fixed, real, true answer to what a real man is. It's going to differ from man to man. We're going to get guests on here from different walks of life. And I think the motivation and the main conviction for us to do something like this is we both, over coffees and in the gym spoke about, we always speak about, areas of life and what affects our life, where we're going, what's bothering us, what's stressing us out, what gets us excited. And that is essentially the life of every man. So we want this podcast to be a springboard and a channel for men our age, older men, sort of midlife crisis men, to see and to hear that, there are topics that aren't off limits. I know men don't always talk about what they feel and what they think. So we want to be able to inspire you to start talking. We'll do the talking and do the questions for you. And then hopefully we can share some lessons and fill in some gaps that you lack in your life. And then I think most of all is we want to provide lessons and advice to younger men who listen to this, or parents of young boys and young men who want to share advice to them. And then hopefully we can build this podcast into the wider ecosystem of helping men to develop into real men. And as I said, we don't have a main sort of definition of what a real man is. We'll share our definitions. But essentially we feel masculinity is important in life. We feel it's important for society, for men to be positive about their masculinity and who they are, especially in a time where there's been a massive attack on men, young men, boys, and the identity of being a man. So we want to address that, and we want to encourage you to really step into it. So I've got a son, I've got 4 kids. My background is in professional sport, and I did recruitment for a professional rugby team. And one of the major things that I saw with boys leaving school is forget academic marks, forget professional high performance skills. I saw a lack in sort of masculine confidence and just the basic skills that are required of being a man and being a young working professional, whether it be communication, being a relational, whatever it might be. And that's always shaped how I've made my decisions after leaving professional rugby as a performance coach and I like to call myself personal development specialist and expert. Everyone's an expert nowadays, but I felt that there was a real gap to really help young people, and that's what it's all about. So see where this fits into the ecosystem. Now that you know a little bit more about me, Jacques, my colleague, I can't remember when I asked you about. When did I first ask you about joining me in the Real Man camps?
It was about a year ago. You mentioned that you wanted to start off on this venture and you need an adventurer on your side.
Jacques rents out camping gear and adventure gear. So outdoorsman, adventurer, Iron Man. You've got to say, I'm an Iron Man. Introduce yourself. I'm Jacques de Villiers. I'm an Iron Man.
No, I think just to add on to what you just introed, is that you, as a man, there's always the question over your head or being asked to you by various walks of life about what does it take to be a man? What does it mean to be a man? And it's in various contexts. And as you grow up you either see examples of real men and you learn from that, good examples for that matter, or you kind of get disappointed by the examples that you see, and you follow different avenues. And I think what we are trying to do is create a context in that environment by having various people on this podcast and creating a journey for men out there to show them what it means by having various people on here that we think are examples of real men, and then extending that to our camps, having a real man experience with our camps. So that's what we about, and that's the journey that we are embarking on today.
Yeah, and I think, we spoke about this before, is that no man is perfect, and no man's going to have everything figured out. So we want to try and borrow from different types of men, different areas that they are really good at, and borrow it and share it, but we also want to discuss the weaknesses. I think every successful man has a vice and has something that sets them back, and I think it's important that we share that too, because one of the main pressure areas for young men is they're very shy and scared to share weakness and share challenges, because the expectation is that they've got to be perfect, they've got to get everything right, and you need to have all your ducks in a row, especially during a time where there is, I feel it's my opinion, that there is an attack on manhood. And I think the attack on manhood is also an attack on the family unit. So if men don't stand up and take ownership, the family unit falls. And I think family unit is sort of the middle point of communities. So I believe men play a very important role in setting the direction for communities. So if we can first of all share the experiences of older men, I'd love to ask a very successful 60-year-old entrepreneur not just why he's successful, but what were his addictions in life? What were the things he had to overcome to be able to get here? On top of asking him for financial advice, I think it's important for young men to see that it's okay to have issues and to talk about them, because they don't. I didn't grow up talking about challenges. It was later in life where I got friends, and one of them, I think this is why this podcast is going to work, because we do this twice a week after our morning gym session, over a coffee, is talk about these things. So I don't know if you're ready for the question. A lot of people ask, when we talk about the podcast, they say, but how are you going to define it? What do you think a real man is? What is a real man, in your view?
I think it is a difficult question to answer, and like you said, for me, there's no specific blueprint. So, and that brings in the difficulty, because as soon as you say it's something, then people might differ.
Yeah.
But we are on a journey to establish that. And just to answer it a bit around the bush, just on the concept or the whole idea of role models, I think that's where my journey to understanding or trying to understand what a real man is started, is that there are various men in your life that you look up to, and that changes as you grow up. So as a young boy, it'll be your dad, probably. If your dad is not there, then it will be another man in your life. And the challenge is to know which men to look up to or to take as a role model. For instance, in my life, my dad was not always there, and when he was there, it was a very one-sided experience. It was an experience of discipline. So very little love, a lot of discipline, which was difficult. So I went to look for another role model in my life, which happened to be my uncle. And it was good for a long period in my life, but then I also matured, and I then looked at my grandfather as my role model. And it was because of my aimed to be a businessman. My grandfather was a really experienced businessman, started off in law and then just went into big corporate business. And I found that attractive to me. So there was a journey of role models in my life. And that plays a part in how you distinguish or determine in what you think a real man is. But basically there are things that society will always also guide you. I mean, if you give in to some of the vices of life, then society will show you that's not the thing that you should be doing. Like, for instance, if you become an alcoholic in a worst case scenario, that will have detrimental impacts on your life, and you will know not to venture in that direction. So I think a real man for me personally, has got balance. If I think of the aspects of my life that I try and follow, then balance is also always a good thing. For instance, to get enough sleep. You can't just be awake. You need sleep. So a lot of people think, no, you must live life to the fullest and you must be on the go all the time. But you can't do it without sleep. We need sleep. So balance is, I think, for me, one of the things that I would say right now at this moment as being a good first step to being a real man.
Okay, so there you go. First lesson on the Real Man podcast. Real men sleep enough. No, I get you. What I hear is more personally is real men are grounded in a lot of areas. You know, there's grounding, but it's not throwing everything into one thing. And you mentioned your grandfather in business. So was that your initial view? Is that a real man is someone who chases financial success?
Yes, definitely. As a youngster, that seemed to be alluring, seemed to me attractive, if you want to call it that. Until I realized what drove him as a young man, until I started talking to him about that. So in his example, he was in that day, I mean, he was born in the 20s, so he even saw the Second World War. But he grew up as an engineer's son. But back in those days, the engineers weren't the kind of affluent engineers of these days. They worked for the state. And so anyway, he came from a very humble background, and his goal in life was to succeed, to rise above the norm. And it became a fight for him. So everything was a battle to rise above what was the norm. And he did really well at university. He became I think, if I remember correctly, the youngest senior counsel at the Johannesburg bar as a lawyer. But then he went into business. And by the time I was born and started to get to know him, he was quite driven. Couldn't wait. The most interesting thing I remember about him is that he couldn't wait for a fire to burn out so that there are coals, so that he can grill the meat. He used pine cones, and he would grill the meat on the flames. It was a nice flavor, but it just showed his lack of patience. So it was part of that drivenness of trying to get to be the best. And
so would you say it was an unhealthy drive?
I think so. I think he even admitted it later in his life. There was a definite shift when he was in his late 70s, early 80s, where he really became like a meek and more loving person. he would have never used the word love as a younger man. But certain things changed in his life, and he engaged with other people and with a new venture. Apart from business, it was more into community work, and I could see the change. I could see he was not so driven anymore, and I guess it happens with age as well. But yeah, so that was my example of a businessman, and I also chased that dream for a while until I realized that the big corporate world is not for me. And then I went the entrepreneurial way.
What made you realize that?
I think the one big thing was the realization that you are putting all your effort into a business, into your work, and the reciprocal view is not the same. It's not like that business is putting all of their effort into you and accepting or valuing what you are putting in. And it was it was also at the time working for a company where the CEO was not the kind of person that I looked up to. So he wasn't for me an example of a good CEO that valued the people that worked for him. There was a lot of screaming and shouting going on. And I just got to a place where I was like, I'm not striving to become him. And then I thought, but what gives you the qualification to be there, to be the person that screams and shouts at other people? And I don't buy into that worldview, that business view. And yeah, so I decided that it's time to do my own thing. It's been something that was coming for years. But that, I think, was the trigger to go my own way.
Yeah, I think my feeling is that men, and I know me personally, I don't want to wait too long to see that the effort I put in gets reciprocated in some way, even if it's small. I like knowing that if I spend a week, 2 weeks, a month investing time and energy and ideas into something, I want to see some sort of return. It's like training and exercise. If you're sedentary and lazy and unfit, you'll start feeling results after 2-3 weeks. So that sort of circular route or that cycle builds momentum that encourages you to keep going. And I think from what I hear is you find corporate world doesn't give you that reciprocation. Either it doesn't give it to you or doesn't give it to you fast enough. It's like that hamster wheel that you keep running on for years, and that's probably the reason that I also don't want to go. One, I never decided to go corporate, is how quickly you run into a wall and run into a ceiling. So if someone asked you now, do you feel successful? Or what makes you feel successful in the work that you do?
Yeah, success for me is not measured in money, not at all. There is I think it's more a feeling of accomplishing something as part of your purpose in life. That sentence is a whole long series of podcasts to discuss what purpose and meaning and accomplishment means. But I am a bit of I like to explain it as a stream with fish in it. And the fish likes to just flow down the stream, the main stream, people flowing down the stream, path of least resistance. I am, for some reason, and I cannot 100% tell you why, but I'm the kind of guy that likes to sometimes just go upstream and ask, but why are we just flowing down the stream? Why are we not swimming upstream? Why are we not choosing that branch of the river? Why are we going down this way, the main one, the easy one? And I like to tell people that the magic doesn't always happen when you just have it easy. The magic happens when you're out there in the mountain, on a cliff face, hanging on a rope, wishing you were on your couch watching a Disney movie, just relaxing, but having the thrill of that experience. So to talk about success and how you measure that does differ from person to person, and it does depend on what your examples has been in life. But I have seen people that are happy with working in a big corporate firm, earning their salary every month. It's a safe, comfortable option, and it works for them. And it creates a safe environment for them at home, for the family. But yeah, I didn't think that was my path. So it's been challenging to start your own business. Every business owner can tell you that. That's also a cliche.
Yeah.
But it's very challenging, but it's also very rewarding. And it's in its own various ways. I mean, if I get a customer that comes back to me and says, yes, we had such an amazing time, thank you for your equipment, then it's rewarding.
Yeah. Well, that's immediate reciprocation of the effort that you put in.
Yeah, so...
it's freedom of choice and flexibility, and if you want to focus on one area of your business today, you can do it. You can make that call, and that's what I also feel is your creativity is only bound to the day. Like, what am I doing today? What do I need to fix, or what do I need to focus? Where can I add value today? And I think that's the most amazing thing about doing your own thing. Is it's not determined by bureaucracy or a line of authority within a corporate environment. There's nothing wrong with working in corporate. I think we should get a guest on here that convinces us it's the right way to go. And that's the beauty, is we can have different points of view. So,
but to answer that, what is success in the context of real man? I think for me, and as we discussed, for us it would be to have men, young boys and young men at our camps that get value from that camp. To say, I really learned something from this, and it's going to help me into the future. Or even 10, 20 years down the line, say that the stuff we learned all from this podcast or from the camps helped me to get direction in my life, or helped me to become a real man, which was beneficial to my community or society as a whole. So that would be success. And if it's just one person, it would be great.
we're nice to have more, but we'll get there.
What is your view on a real man?
I was waiting for you to ask. So, I think it boils down to intention. I'm fortunate to be able to often ask young athletes, how do you measure success, and what would success look like for you? And then break it down into goals, outcomes, KPIs, whatever you want to call it. It's essentially a vision for their career. Is I'll be successful if I get a contract at a professional team and become a Springbok, play for my country, or go and play in Europe. But that vision never has a wider legacy impact to it. So I want to ask him, why would that be success to you? What would happen if you reach that goal or achieve that vision? How does it change your life? How does it eventually change the life of those around you? How does it affect your community? Do you see it in terms of your life has the impact to change your future family, the people that you get to deal with? And obviously they don't often think of that. It's just, at the moment I'm playing rugby, I'm passing a ball, I'm going to become a Springbok. That would make me happy and that would make me successful. There's no wider view of it, and I'm not saying they have to immediately have a wider view. They take that goal and they put it in the future. And because they can think of that goal and they see it happening in the future, it sort of excites them, but it doesn't change the way that they approach today. They just continue going down the stream, as you would say. So they get their weekly training program and they just fall into it. They just, they pitch up for the session on time, they do what the coach says day after day after day, and then they expect that goal to just happen. And when I asked them, okay, but how would you describe the person who reaches that successful vision you want to chase? Describe his identity to me. They tend to struggle. I thought, okay, what do you think you need to be able to do really well to be successful at achieving this? You know, you want to be a Springbok fly-off. Describe to me what a Springbok fly-off needs to do really well. Now, they need to kick well and pass, distribute. Okay, great. What are the stats? What are the statistics of a Springbok fly-off? Accuracy, line breaks, tackle completion, etc. They can't tell me. So that's fine. What are you going to do today and tomorrow? How do you plan your day to make sure that day by day you develop the identity of that individual? No, they work hard. I work hard. I'm disciplined. I go to training. They're really bad at bringing a future outcome into what needs to happen today specifically. There's no specificity around that intention. If I say, let's take a simple example, someone who says, yes, I want to be lean and fit and strong at the end of the year. I said, okay, describe your diet for me. Your daily, what does your daily diet look like? If you have to be really honest. Yeah, they still get a Gatsby when they're hungry, or 10 o'clock at night, they'll go and have a pie. I said, well then, what you're showing to me, like if I had to be a fly on the wall, if I had to watch you, I don't believe you that goal or that outcome or that vision is serious to you. I don't think you're serious about it because your life doesn't reflect that vision. And that is what intention is to me. And when I talk about intention, is I want to know that you have a far-off vision for what it is you want to achieve, but you need to live that every day. It's not an end point that you reach, and once you reach it, you're successful. It's about an identity and a behavior patterns. It's a discipline. It's momentum that you create every single day to get to a point that's sustainable and that has longevity. We tend to work in outcomes, end goals, when we talk about vision and what we want out of life and what would make us successful. But we never ask ourselves, what's going to make us feel successful every day? When I wake up today and I look back at today, did I do the things that I can honestly and objectively say, or subjectively, I felt today was a success because I got to do what I want, and I got to be disciplined. I got to be, I lived up my values. I did what's important. I spent time with, people I need to spend time with. So for me, a real man is, and when we did say it was going to be difficult to define this, we're going to show a whole bunch of ideas, but for me, a real man is knowing what's important to them, knowing it's going somewhere, but being able to live and show traces of that intention every day. We're not just slaving on a hamster wheel to reach a success goal that's an endpoint. We're continuously doing things that reflects a successful lifestyle, whether it's family or work or profession.
So would you say we're going to expand on that in future podcasts?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd like to expand on it, but I've got a couple of guests in mind that I'd like to get on board. And once again, I know that I'm good at certain areas in my life, but I've got a lot of weaknesses. And there's no man that's got everything figured out. So we'll reach a stage where I'll sit here and say, these are the things I'm really poor at. I'm not good at discipline. It's one of my biggest life challenges, and that's the one thing I'm working on at the moment. You're very black and white. I'm very sort of go with the flow, grey, and I can easily submit to how I'm feeling on the day rather than saying, this is what needs to be done. My wife's like that as well, like very strategic. This is my outcomes list. This is what I'm going to get done today. And she doesn't go to bed before that list is checked off. I tend to make that list, and I'll get to a point, I'm not feeling this now. I'm going to go make some coffee.
But Andri, isn't the answer just very simple? You just become black and white like me. I mean,
no, it's not. It's temperament. So the challenge is having the self-awareness to be honest about this is what I struggle with, and this is what I need to work on.
So we agree that there are various types of personalities, and there's no real example on this earth of a real man, and that all those different personalities will view it differently, but there are some core values that we'll discuss.
No, I think there are examples of what you can call a real man. I just don't think there's one typecast. There's not, a real man is a task-orientated, goal-driven, black and white machine. Because the task-orientated, goal-driven machine might miss out on the softer elements required to build, sensitive and deep relationships. Because relationships require, you need to be able to meet a person who differs from you completely somewhere in the middle. And I find task-orientated people often miss that. Whereas someone that's really emotional, more on the grey side like I am, just like, let's keep everyone happy, and like one of my strengths is individualization and perspective. I can easily take 10 different perspectives with empathy and listen to each one. They often don't get stuff done because you want to assess all the different options first and see what, is this going to work, and you overthink another area. I often ask, again, just repeat that to me, or just say that again. I'll ask my wife something 10 times just to make sure. Whereas she just wants to, you say it once, you do it once, you get it done. Whereas it's not my strength. It's not how I'm, let's say it's not how I'm wired naturally. So I've got to work at it.
So with that in mind, just going to the camps that we are planning, if people are wondering, what will the camps look like? What's the plan? What did you have in mind initially when you started thinking about the camps, and what can people expect at the camp?
Yeah, so doing camps, it was probably not the central why is not doing camps. I think the central why, just to go back, is it comes out of the performance background of helping individuals and teams reach their definition of what do I want? What is going to make me feel successful? That grew into, yes, I think there's really a niche and a need to help young men to develop that better and help them define, what do I want? What is going to make me feel successful? Because I think a lot of young men don't get it. I think a lot of them are without purpose or without drive. I think COVID made it worse. Being out of a school environment or being out of a community environment where you work together towards something, you feel part of something. That's very important for men, is to feel part of something. So that's the first thing, is to be able to help young men answer the question, what do I want? And it's not just camps. Obviously it's the one-on-one programs, one-on-one coaching. We said we want to build an ecosystem, of which camps is a very important part, is to get groups of young men together and share, like, what makes me feel successful? What do I want? What drives my vision? What is my vision for life? And then it's about developing perspective on what's keeping me back. Why is this keeping me back? What are the tools I need to develop to gain control over my thoughts, my emotions, and then eventually my actions? Because the way we act and respond to things in life and setbacks is primarily driven by belief systems. It's like, what I think of myself. What is the story I keep telling myself about myself? The camps is about helping young men find that belief system, identify the belief system, develop the self-awareness to be able to say, this is my belief, this is the lie I tell myself, or these are the lies. We are all essentially a product of how many ever years we've been on this planet's worth of decisions that we've made based on the scenarios we've been in. So an 18-year-old has had 18 years of life experiences, whether it's household, at school, bullying. It's consistent feedback from our environment, and we develop the belief system based on the decision and the reaction we've had in those scenarios. So we either affirm or deaffirm a belief system. I've seen that most young men have some they've got some story that they tell themselves that's not true. And if we can create an environment where they're willing to share that story with other young men, they'll firstly see that they're not the only ones. That's the other problem, is young men think that I'm the only one who's struggling with this. And they're not. If they can share that with others, they'll see, man, this guy's got the same story as me, or this guy's got a different story, but he's also got a story.
So what I was really excited about when you started talking about getting the guys together in the form of camps, and as you said, it has grown to other aspects as well, but was the adventure side of it. So I like being outdoors, and I think that it's a great space for men to be in. It takes their minds off a lot of things that are not necessarily great for them, which makes me happy. I mean, I like being outdoors. There's something about it, and everybody experiences it differently, but it really centers you and grounds you and makes you feel alive in many things that you do in the outdoors. So I think that aspect really appealed to me, but it also talks to the whole social media, online, digital environment that people in general, but young men find themselves in. And I think from my perspective as a man who only started using a cell phone, not even a smartphone, when I was 20, these days there's a huge impact on young boys, having to navigate the use of that, how it affects their lives. I think that's something that I think we have our first camp. We'll have
get them out of the phone world and into the real world.
Yes. So it will be a phone-free camp.
Yeah. Well, I think besides the fact that you're black and white and I'm a bit more grey and we complement each other there, you are the adventurer, you are the outdoors guy, and you've built your business around it. Is the balance between good discussion and just good adventure, getting outdoors, doing talks in a river, on a hiking trail, on a climbing wall. What would you like to take out of the podcast of going forward? Well, not just the podcast, but the whole ecosystem. Where would you like to grow?
Well, I definitely see it as a journey. The concept of finding what it means to be a real man. So, like I said earlier, my example as a young boy wasn't great. So take that into the other examples that I followed, not necessarily thinking about if they are the correct examples or not. Turning 48 this year, reaching a stage where I think, what is it? What does it mean? How are we doing as men? And what can we do to become better men? Because it affects not just our own lives, it affects the women in our lives. It affects the children in our lives. So it would be amazing just to learn from this journey that we're going to go on. I think it links up to the fact that I don't know what the answer is, but I'm intending to find out, and that's what tickled me when you started talking about this. And then, like you mentioned, there is definitely an assault on manhood from various walks of life, and I think it's because we are not sure of what it means. So by going on this journey, by finding out what it means, you can say with a positive outlook that it's not that, or it's not that. I know what it is. I've experienced and I've grown into it, and it works. So I think that's what appeals to me about the Real Man project.
I just wanted to mean something to a man at any stage of their life. So even if it's the 80-year-old sage wanting to actually come on the show and talk about life lessons and impart, the 50-year-old guy realizing is, I can talk about this, and making contact with someone in their life that they know they can share with. Maybe the 20-year-old guy adapting his professional life, and because he's changed the definition of success. And then obviously young men, to students, schoolgoers, saying, there is an outcome for us. There is something to work to, and even if the influences in my life aren't great at the moment, there are good influences, and I've just got to go and find them. And we said we find different examples of what it is to be a real man from different men in our life. So I guess I'm very excited about this because I see the whole ecosystem in front of me. I don't just see the podcast. I don't just see camps. I don't see coaching programs. I see Real Man as a community of guys and men supporting each other and helping the next generation make better decisions. Because I don't think the examples that they've got at the moment are enough. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're good. They're young guys who have great dads, great parents, and good setups. But I think, just as I said earlier, I think what a real man is, I think we need to be more intentional as to how we help men make better decisions.
I'm also looking forward to being out there with the guys in the mountains, in the rivers, and just enjoying the outdoors as well.
Yeah. So for those that know, our idea long term, and it's just part of the ecosystem, is to have camps for schoolboys and students. Head out for 3 to 4 nights and just talk about what it is to be a real man, share some of the definitions we've got, and then get them out in the mountains. Jacques is our adventure man, so he'll teach them all the tricks of the trade of being outside. Cooking good food, setting camp, mountain climbing, whatever it might be. If you want more information, you can follow the website link in the description. We'll have some more resources there that you can check into. And get in touch if you've got questions. If you feel you can be a good guest on the show, you're welcome to get in touch with us. But for now, that's our intro episode for the Real Man podcast. Stay tuned for the next episodes coming up.